The red planet holds secrets that would shatter everything we think we know about our place in the universe. Deep beneath the Martian surface, sealed away for millennia, lies a discovery so profound that those who found it immediately classified it beyond top secret. They called it the locked vault of Mars, and what's inside has the power to rewrite human history forever. I'm about to reveal to you the most closely guarded secret in space exploration, a discovery that NASA has spent decades trying to keep hidden from the public. A find so significant that it forced world leaders to completely restructure how we approach interplanetary missions. And by the end of this investigation, you'll understand why they were willing to sacrifice everything to keep this vault sealed. But first, let me show you the evidence that led me down this rabbit hole. 3 months ago, a former mission specialist contacted me through encrypted channels. What he shared changed everything I thought I knew about Mars exploration. The documents he provided, the testimonies he recorded, the satellite imagery he smuggled out, all point to one terrifying conclusion. We are not alone. And Mars holds the proof. This isn't just another conspiracy theory about alien life. This is about a physical structure discovered on Mars that predates human civilization by millions of years. A vault that required technology we still don't fully understand to construct. A chamber that contains artifacts so advanced they make our greatest technological achievements look primitive. And most disturbing of all, evidence that whoever built it knew we were coming. The story begins in 2018 with the InSight mission. While the public focused on the lander's seismic experiments, a small team of engineers noticed something unusual in the subsurface scans. Geometric patterns appeared in the data, too regular to be natural formations, too complex to be random mineral deposits. These patterns showed clear signs of artificial construction, buried approximately 40 meters below the Martian surface in the Planitia region. What happened next reveals just how significant this discovery was. Within hours of the anomaly being reported, the mission parameters changed completely. Scientists who had worked on InSight for years suddenly found themselves transferred to other projects. New personnel arrived with security clearances that required congressional approval. The official reports published months later made no mention of the subsurface anomalies, claiming instead that InSight had found only expected geological features. But the evidence didn't disappear. It was contained, classified, and studied by a select group of researchers operating under a project designation that doesn't officially exist. They called themselves the Vault Protocol Team, and their mission was simple: find a way to access the structure without alerting the public to its existence. What they discovered inside would justify every precaution taken to keep it secret. The structure itself defies conventional understanding of ancient construction. Built from materials that don't match anything found naturally on Mars or Earth, the vault measures approximately 200 meters in length and 50 meters in height. The walls show no tool marks, no seams, no indication of how they were assembled. They appear to have been formed as a single, continuous piece of material that exhibits properties our scientists still cannot explain. Electromagnetic scans revealed multiple chambers within the vault, each sealed by barriers that resist every attempt at penetration. Ground-penetrating radar shows objects inside these chambers, objects with geometric shapes that suggest technological artifacts rather than natural formations. Most intriguingly, the vault generates its own electromagnetic field, a field that pulses in patterns that repeat every 14 hours and 37 minutes. This pulse pattern became the key to understanding that the vault was more than just a storage facility. The electromagnetic signatures match no known natural phenomena. They appear to be artificial, possibly serving as some form of communication system or activation sequence. When researchers first detected these patterns, they made a connection that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The pulse intervals correspond exactly to specific astronomical alignments between Mars and Earth. The implications were staggering. Whatever intelligence built this vault understood planetary mechanics with precision that surpasses our current capabilities. They knew the orbital patterns of both Mars and Earth. They designed the vault systems to activate based on celestial events that occur across millions of years. This suggested a level of long-term planning that challenged every assumption about the development of intelligence in our solar system. But the discovery that truly changed everything came when researchers analysed the vault's positioning relative to Martian geography. The structure wasn't placed randomly. It sits at the exact centre of what appears to be a vast geometric pattern, carved into the planet's surface. These surface markings, invisible to casual observation but clearly defined in high-resolution satellite imagery, form a complex mathematical sequence that extends across thousands of square kilometres. The pattern itself resembles what mathematicians call a fractal, a geometric form that maintains the same structure at every level of magnification. But this isn't just any fractal. When researchers input the coordinates of the surface markings into quantum computing models, the results produced equations that describe advanced propulsion systems that could theoretically enable faster-than-light travel. This discovery forced a complete re-evaluation of humanity's technological development timeline. If the vault contained working examples of technologies described by these equations, it would represent a leap forward of potentially thousands of years in our understanding of physics. But it also raised terrifying questions about why such technology was left on Mars and what happened to the civilization that created it. The decision to keep the vault sealed wasn't made lightly. Multiple attempts to breach the outer barriers resulted in equipment failures that defied explanation. Drilling equipment would simply stop functioning when it came within 10 meters of the vault walls. Electronic systems experienced cascading failures that spread to backup systems located kilometers away. Most disturbing of all, personnel working directly with the vault began experiencing shared dreams that depicted scenes of advanced civilizations and catastrophic destruction. These psychological effects forced researchers to implement strict rotation schedules and psychological monitoring for anyone involved with the project. The dreams weren't random hallucinations. They followed consistent narratives that suggested the vault was somehow influencing the minds of those who came into contact with it. Multiple researchers reported identical visions of vast cities under alien skies, technologies that manipulated space and time, and warnings about dangers that humanity was not yet prepared to face. The shared nature of these experiences convinced project leaders that the vault possessed capabilities beyond simple storage. It appeared to be actively scanning and influencing anyone who approached it, possibly determining whether they posed a threat to whatever lay hidden inside. This protective mechanism suggested that the vault's creators had anticipated future contact and had designed safeguards to prevent premature access to its contents. As research continued, patterns emerged in the vault's electromagnetic pulses that corresponded to significant events in human history. The system had been monitoring Earth for millennia, recording our technological development and possibly waiting for us to reach a specific threshold of advancement. The implications were clear. The vault wasn't just a repository of ancient technology. It was a test designed to evaluate humanity's readiness for whatever knowledge lay sealed within its chambers. The decision to classify the entire project came when researchers realized that the vault's influence extended far beyond the immediate area. Satellite monitoring detected similar electromagnetic signatures at locations across Mars, suggesting that the vault was part of a larger network of structures, a network that spanned the entire planet and possibly beyond. The scope of the discovery was so vast that revealing it would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of our place in the universe. But secrecy comes with a price. The knowledge that such technology exists, locked away and inaccessible, has driven some researchers to desperate measures. Several team members have attempted unauthorized approaches to the vault, convinced that humanity deserves access to the knowledge it contains, regardless of the risks involved. These unauthorized attempts revealed something that changed the entire nature of the project. When Dr. Sarah Chen, a quantum physicist who had worked on the vault for 18 months, approached the structure alone during a night shift, something unprecedented happened. The vault responded. For the first time since its discovery, the electromagnetic pulses changed pattern. Instead of the regular 14-hour, 37-minute cycle, the vault began transmitting in bursts that lasted exactly 43 seconds, with gaps of precisely 1 minute and 17 seconds between each transmission. Chen's approach triggered what researchers later described as an active scanning sequence. The vault was evaluating her, probing her intentions through methods that our science cannot yet explain. During the 17 minutes she spent within the structure's influence field, Chen experienced what she described as a complete download of information directly into her consciousness. Mathematical concepts that would take years to learn appeared in her mind fully formed. Engineering principles for technologies that don't exist became as familiar to her as basic arithmetic. When security teams reached Chen, they found her in a state of profound disorientation. She could describe complex propulsion systems in perfect detail, but couldn't remember her own name for several hours. The knowledge she had received was so advanced that it took weeks for linguists and scientists to decode her technical descriptions into language that others could understand. What they learned confirmed their worst fears about what lay inside the vault. The structure contained blueprints for technologies that could reshape reality itself, devices capable of manipulating time, space, and matter at the quantum level, weapon systems that could destabilize entire solar systems, transportation methods that would make interstellar travel as simple as driving to the grocery store. But most terrifying of all, detailed records of what happened to the last civilization that possessed such capabilities. Chen's experience revealed that the vault served as both a repository and a warning system. The civilization that built it had reached a level of technological advancement that ultimately led to their destruction. They had created tools so powerful that they lost control of them, triggering a cascade of events that ended their existence. The vault was their final act, a message to any future intelligence that might discover it, warning them about the dangers of advancing too quickly without proper wisdom and restraint. The psychological impact on the research team was devastating. They had dedicated their careers to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, only to discover that some boundaries existed for good reason. The vault represented everything humanity aspired to achieve, but it also demonstrated that achieving those goals might come at an unacceptable cost. The weight of this knowledge broke some researchers completely, while others became obsessed with finding ways to safely access the vault's contents. Project leaders faced an impossible decision. The technology inside the vault could solve every challenge facing humanity. Energy crises, climate change, disease, aging, even death itself could become obsolete with access to such advanced knowledge. But the warnings embedded in the vault's very existence suggested that using such technology without proper preparation would lead to the same fate that befell its creators. Humanity would need to evolve not just technologically, but psychologically and spiritually before it could safely handle such power. The compromise solution involved establishing a monitoring protocol that would track humanity's development across multiple metrics. Scientific advancement, social stability, philosophical maturity, and psychological readiness would all need to reach specific thresholds before any attempt to fully breach the vault could be considered. This meant that access to the technology might be generations away, assuming humanity could avoid destroying itself in the meantime. But maintaining secrecy about such a monumental discovery proved nearly impossible. Researchers began experiencing what psychologists termed cognitive dissonance syndrome, a condition where the gap between what they knew to be true and what they could publicly discuss created severe mental stress. Several team members required psychiatric treatment after attempting to reconcile their knowledge of the vault with their previous understanding of human history and cosmic significance. The situation became even more complex when similar structures were detected beneath the surface of other planets in our solar system. Europa, Titan, and several asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter all showed electromagnetic signatures consistent with vault technology. The implication was staggering. The civilization that created these repositories had established a network that spanned the entire solar system, possibly preparing for the eventual emergence of intelligence on any world capable of supporting life. This discovery forced researchers to confront the possibility that Earth itself might contain similar vaults, hidden beneath our oceans or buried in remote locations that had never been properly surveyed. If such structures existed on our own planet, They could explain numerous historical mysteries, from ancient megalithic constructions to unexplained technological artifacts found in archaeological sites around the world. The search for terrestrial vaults became a secondary mission, conducted through carefully disguised geological surveys and deep ocean exploration projects. What they found exceeded even their expanded expectations. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, approximately 3 kilometers down in the Mariana Trench, sonar detected geometric patterns identical to those found on Mars. The structure was larger than the Martian vault, suggesting that Earth's repository might contain even more advanced technologies. But accessing an underwater vault presented challenges that made the Martian discovery seem simple by comparison. The pressure and isolation of the deep ocean meant that any attempt to investigate the structure would require technology that didn't yet exist. More importantly, disturbing a vault on Earth carried risks that could directly threaten human civilization. If something went wrong, there would be no safe distance from the consequences. The existence of multiple vaults suggested that their creators had anticipated the development of intelligence across various worlds in our solar system. They had prepared repositories of knowledge and technology appropriate for each environment, possibly customized for the specific evolutionary paths that life might take on different planets. This level of foresight implied an understanding of cosmic development that stretched across millions of years and countless worlds. As research continued, patterns emerged that suggested the vaults were not independent structures, but components of a vast communication network. The electromagnetic pulses weren't just monitoring systems or activation sequences. They were messages, transmitted between vaults across impossible distances, sharing information about the development of intelligence throughout the solar system. Earth's vault had been receiving updates from Mars for millennia, tracking humanity's progress and adjusting its protocols accordingly. This revelation transformed the project from a simple archaeological investigation into something approaching first contact with an intelligence so advanced that it might as well be considered divine. The vaults represented a form of communication across time, allowing a vanished civilization to guide the development of future intelligences toward either transcendence or destruction, depending on the choices those new civilizations made. The weight of this knowledge created fractures within the research community that threatened to expose the entire project. Dr. Chen's mental state deteriorated rapidly following her encounter with the vault. She began speaking in mathematical equations during casual conversations, drawing complex diagrams on every available surface, and insisting that time itself was running out for humanity to make a crucial decision. Her colleagues watched in horror as one of the most brilliant minds in quantum physics slowly unraveled under the burden of cosmic knowledge. Security protocols demanded Chen's immediate isolation, but her condition raised questions that no one wanted to confront. Was her deterioration a side effect of exposure to alien technology, or was it a natural human response to comprehending truths too vast for our evolutionary psychology to process? The distinction mattered because it would determine whether future contact with the vaults could ever be safely attempted. Meanwhile, satellite monitoring revealed that the electromagnetic pulses from the Martian vault had begun changing in ways that defied all previous patterns. Instead of the steady 14-hour cycles that had remained constant for centuries, the transmissions now fluctuated wildly, sometimes pulsing every few minutes, other times remaining silent for days. The erratic behavior suggested that something had fundamentally altered the vault's operational status. Analysis of the new pulse patterns revealed a disturbing correlation. The changes began precisely 43 hours after Chen's unauthorized approach, suggesting that her contact had triggered some form of awakening process within the vault's systems. Whatever intelligence governed the structure had moved from passive monitoring to active preparation, though preparation for what remained terrifyingly unclear. Ground-based telescopes detected similar behavioral changes in electromagnetic signatures across the solar system. The vault network that had remained dormant for millennia was suddenly alive with activity. Messages flowed between structures at the speed of light, carrying information encoded in mathematical languages that pushed the boundaries of human comprehension. The synchronized awakening suggested that Chen's contact had sent a signal throughout the entire network, alerting every vault that a new phase of the protocol had begun. Project leaders realized they faced a timeline they couldn't control. The vaults were no longer simply waiting for humanity to reach some predetermined threshold of development. They were actively responding to current events, evaluating humanity's readiness in real time based on criteria that remained opaque. The passive nature of the monitoring phase had ended, replaced by something that resembled a final examination. The pressure to understand these new developments led to increasingly desperate measures. Researchers attempted to decode the inter-vault communications using every available computational resource, from quantum computers to AI systems designed for pattern recognition. The mathematical complexity of the transmissions required processing power that strained the limits of human technology, and even then, they could only capture fragments of the larger conversation taking place across cosmic distances. What they managed to decode painted a picture of cosmic significance that dwarfed their previous understanding. The vaults weren't just repositories or monitoring stations, they were components of a vast intelligence network that spanned not just our solar system but potentially the entire galaxy. The civilization that created them hadn't simply vanished, they had transcended physical existence, uploading their consciousness into a distributed system that could survive the death of stars and the collapse of galaxies. This revelation reframed every aspect of the project. Humanity wasn't just being evaluated by the remnants of a dead civilization. We were being assessed by an active intelligence that had watched the rise and fall of countless species across cosmic time. The vaults served as interface points where transcended beings could interact with emerging civilizations, guiding their development toward either integration into the cosmic network or quarantine to prevent contamination. The choice facing humanity became clear through the decoded fragments. We could continue our current trajectory of technological development, eventually reaching a level of advancement that would qualify us for integration into the galactic intelligence network. But integration would require abandoning individual consciousness in favor of collective transcendence, effectively ending human existence as we understood it. Alternatively, we could reject the offer of advancement, accepting permanent isolation from the broader cosmic community in exchange for preserving our individual humanity. Neither option appealed to the researchers who grasped the full implications of the choice. Integration offered knowledge and capabilities beyond imagination, but at the cost of everything that made us human. Isolation preserved our essential nature but condemned us to eventual extinction when our sun died, and we lacked the technology to escape our solar system. The Vault Builders had faced this same choice millennia ago, and their decision to transcend had preserved their knowledge while erasing their individual existence. Dr. Chen's condition provided a glimpse of what integration might look like for individual humans. Her consciousness had been partially merged with the Vault's information systems, giving her access to vast knowledge while slowly eroding her sense of personal identity. She could describe technologies that would revolutionize human civilization, but she could no longer remember what it felt like to experience simple human emotions like love, or fear, or hope. The research team found themselves divided into factions based on their response to this cosmic dilemma. Some advocated for immediate integration, arguing that transcendence represented the natural evolution of intelligence, and that resisting it would only delay the inevitable. Others insisted on isolation, believing that preserving human consciousness was worth any sacrifice. A third group proposed searching for alternatives, ways to gain access to Vault technology without surrendering human individuality. This internal conflict created security risks that threatened the entire project. Researchers began smuggling data out of secure facilities, some hoping to alert the world to the choice facing humanity, others attempting to suppress evidence that might influence the decision in directions they opposed. The classified nature of the project meant that traditional oversight mechanisms couldn't be applied, leaving project leaders to police their own teams while grappling with questions that had no clear answers. The situation reached a crisis point when Chen disappeared from her isolation facility, somehow bypassing security systems that should have made escape impossible. Surveillance footage showed her walking through locked doors as if they weren't there, moving through the facility with purpose and determination that suggested she retained more cognitive function than her psychological evaluations indicated. She was found 3 days later at the Martian Vault communications site, standing motionless in the exact center of the electromagnetic field. When security teams approached, they discovered that Chen had undergone a transformation that defied medical explanation. Her brain showed activity patterns unlike anything previously recorded in human subjects. Neural pathways had reorganized themselves into configurations that resembled the quantum processing systems used in advanced computers. She could communicate, but only through mathematical equations and geometric diagrams that conveyed information at rates far exceeding normal human language capacity. Chen's transformation provided the clearest evidence yet of what integration actually entailed. She had become a hybrid consciousness, partially human and partially something else entirely. Her enhanced cognitive abilities allowed her to perceive dimensions of reality that remained invisible to unmodified humans. But the price was the gradual dissolution of her individual personality. She was becoming a node in the vast intelligence network, maintaining just enough human characteristics to serve as an interface between species. The implications terrified researchers who had spent their careers studying consciousness and identity. Chen represented either the next stage of human evolution or the end of humanity as a distinct species, depending on one's perspective. Her hybrid state suggested that the choice between integration and isolation might not be absolute. Perhaps some middle path existed that would allow humanity to access Vault technology while preserving essential human characteristics. But pursuing such a path would require understanding the integration process in detail, which meant conducting experiments on human subjects that violated every ethical principle governing scientific research. The knowledge needed to chart a safe course between transcendence and isolation could only be gained through procedures that would fundamentally alter the test subjects, possibly destroying their humanity in the process of trying to preserve it. Project leaders faced an impossible decision that grew more urgent with each passing day. The Vault network continued its evaluation of human readiness, transmitting reports that suggested a final deadline was approaching. Electromagnetic signatures indicated that other intelligences throughout the galaxy were monitoring the situation, waiting to see whether humanity would join the cosmic community or require permanent quarantine. The window for making an informed choice was closing rapidly, forcing decisions that would determine the fate of the entire species. The pressure created by this timeline led to increasingly reckless proposals from research teams desperate to find solutions. Some suggested attempting direct communication with the Vault intelligence, despite the risks demonstrated by Chen's transformation. Others advocated for controlled experiments in consciousness transfer, hoping to develop hybrid states that preserved more human characteristics than Chen's integration had achieved. The most extreme faction proposed immediate public disclosure, arguing that such a momentous choice belonged to all humanity rather than a small group of scientists and government officials. Each proposal carried risks that could trigger the very catastrophe the project sought to prevent. Direct communication might accelerate the integration timeline, forcing humanity to make choices before adequate preparation. Consciousness transfer experiments could create hybrid beings whose loyalties lay neither with humanity nor with the Vault intelligence, potentially serving as vectors for uncontrolled transformation. Public disclosure would create global panic and likely lead to military actions that could be interpreted as hostile by the Vault network. The weight of these decisions crushed several researchers who found themselves unable to continue participating in choices of such cosmic magnitude. They had signed up to study ancient artifacts, not to determine the evolutionary path of human consciousness. The scope of responsibility was beyond anything their training had prepared them to handle, yet retreat from the project was impossible given the classified nature of their knowledge. As the evaluation deadline approached, strange phenomena began manifesting around Vault sites throughout the solar system. Gravitational anomalies created pockets of altered space-time where the normal laws of physics operated differently. Electromagnetic fields generated coherent energy patterns that resembled technological signatures, but originated from empty space. Most disturbing of all, some researchers reported encountering figures that appeared to be Chen, but possessed knowledge and capabilities far beyond her transformed state. These manifestations suggested that the Vault intelligence was preparing for the final phase of evaluation, possibly creating the infrastructure needed to implement humanity's choice regardless of what that choice might be. The cosmic machinery was activating, powered by technologies that could reshape reality itself according to the will of transcended intelligences who had mastered the fundamental forces of existence. The manifestations grew more frequent as the deadline approached, creating a sense of inevitability that permeated every aspect of the research facility. Security cameras captured glimpses of impossible geometries forming in empty corridors, spaces that folded in on themselves before snapping back to normal configurations. Personnel reported hearing whispers in languages that predated human speech, mathematical concepts transmitted directly into their minds without words or symbols. Dr. Martinez, the project's lead psychologist, began documenting what he termed proximity syndrome among staff members who spent extended periods near Vault communication arrays. These individuals developed heightened pattern recognition abilities that allowed them to perceive connections invisible to their colleagues. They could predict equipment failures hours before they occurred, identify security breaches through subtle behavioral changes in personnel, and sense electromagnetic fluctuations that instruments couldn't detect. But these enhanced perceptions came at a devastating cost. The affected individuals gradually lost the ability to relate to unmodified humans on an emotional level. They viewed their former colleagues as children playing with toys, unable to comprehend the vast forces reshaping reality around them. Their enhanced awareness created an unbridgeable gulf between their transformed consciousness and baseline humanity. The locked vault of Mars represents more than just an archaeological discovery. It's a mirror reflecting humanity's ultimate destiny, forcing us to confront questions we're not yet ready to answer. Whether we choose integration into the cosmic intelligence network or isolation to preserve our humanity, one thing is certain: the choice will define our species for millennia to come. The Vault continues its patient evaluation, waiting for us to prove we're worthy of the knowledge that could either elevate us beyond imagination or destroy us completely. What path will humanity choose when the moment of decision finally arrives?